ಅದು ಲಿವರ್ ಕೆಳಗಂತ ಹಾ. Good morning to all. And actually it was anatomy class I was taking today. Now in this time schedule because I'm assigned with one more postgraduate symposium from 10 to 1. And in the place of this 10 to 11 anatomy class will be engaged. So many of you are in the campus and Monday onwards we will be starting the offline classes for both theory as well as practicals. So please gear up yourself to start coming at 8 o'clock to the theory classes. The schedule will run as usual from before. Okay. So we'll begin with almost it's the last part of gastrointestinal tract and it's a very most important topic also. As you all know, liver and gallbladder, they are the main metabolic centers of the body, right? So you will be dealing in detail with anatomy of the liver, how many lobes, 2 lobes are there, they are divided by falciform ligament, and what is the arrangement of liver with the stomach and surrounding organs. I'll not go into details of that, but definitely we will go with the our physiological anatomy part. Okay, so objectives of this class, today's class will be to know by the end of the class, all students are supposed to know about the liver, functional anatomy of the liver, structural characteristics of the glands, secretion of bile, and the function of liver actually. And you should remember that when we study about the bile, two different types of biles we are going to study physiologically, because bile produced in the hepatocyte is different from it goes into the gallbladder and there it is stored and concentrated. So we will study with respect to liver what is the bile and its function of the liver, and then again when we study about the gallbladder we will deal with the gallbladder bile and liver bile. So you should remember same bile but composition and its variations makes us physiologically to study it two different times. Okay, then we will also deal with the applied aspect or jaundice along with the liver. So hopefully I will cover up to the liver at least today. So beginning with a case problem. Now remember, whenever we put a case problem in theory classes, it will be considered as a paper case and early clinical exposure, right? Although you are not going to take you to the hospital side to see the hepatomegaly and other reports, but case problem will be appearing in your exams whenever in theory classes case problems are told to you. So please note down the case problems because that is also going to come in your exam as a long question or short note. So we'll begin with the case of today's, that is Kumar, age 25 years with weight of 65 kg. He comes with the complaints, chief complaints of passing concentrated urine continuously for 15 days, since 15 days, and he's having severe body weakness also, and along with that he has loss of appetite and there is a itching all over the body, and even he complains that he is passing stools which is pale color, bulky, foul smelling stool. So these are his chief complaints. Now by this time you will come to know passing pale color stool is, we are dealt with pancreatic secretion and other things where intestinal secretion malabsorption occurs, steatorrhea, right? So in medical terms this is called as steatorrhea, and this you have to come to the conclusion that there is some disturbance in the GI tract, either in the pancreas or liver or gallbladder, because this is with increased fatty acids present in the stool. That's why it makes it foul smelling, and pale color is because of absence of bilirubin and biliverdin, especially we tell stercobilinogen, which is the pigment that is responsible for color of the stool. So when pale color is mentioned, the bilirubin or stercobilinogen or stercobilin is not present in the stool, and the probable cause is obstructive jaundice, right? So on examination, you will come to know that there is yellow discoloration of his sclera, especially Eisman sclera, and when you palpate abdomen, there is a enlargement of liver you find, and the yellow color, when you ask him to give sample of urine, you will also find there is dark yellow color. And once you advise him investigations, he will come with this report, and whatever values I have put in black color, they indicate that serum urea, serum sodium, serum potassium and serum creatinine. These are the values of his blood, okay, and this side is the normal values. So when we compare, this 35 mg per deciliter is within normal range. All these values are in normal range. That's why I have made it a different color. Whereas his serum bilirubin total, direct bilirubin, indirect bilirubin, SGOT and SGPT levels are increased compared to the normal level. So the probable cause is again obstructive jaundice. You have to advise few more investigations to know. Can anyone tell me what is the name of biochemical test which will differentiate whether it is obstructive jaundice or hepatic jaundice, pre-hepatic or hepatic jaundice? I hope you are all alert and listening. Can you tell me the name of the test which will differentiate obstructive jaundice from hepatic or pre-hepatic jaundice? Anyone? No one is listening? Or nobody knows what it is? Okay, I will ask my offline theory class then. Okay, so this is again a diagram I have put wherein you will see the liver, its structure, and the lobes, how they are divided, and the arrangement and relationship with anatomical landmarking. You please remember, basically right and left lobes are there, wherein right lobe is larger than the left lobe, and this division is specifically by coronary ligament or falciparum ligament. And there are many ligaments in the liver where it is going to divide the liver lobules into different parts. So coming to physiological anatomy, you all know that the liver is made up of different lobes, and each lobes contain many lobules, and these lobules are the structural and functional unit of the liver. So what happens here, what is the basic structure is hexagonal shape. As you can see, it is a hexagonal shape of lobule is there, wherein there is a portal triad situated at all the corners of this hexagon. So this is called as portal triad because it is having three important structures in the triad. So you will know what are the three important structures. We remember it as VAN, V-A-N. V is vein, A is artery, N is nerve. So always the triad consists like that, but in case of hepatocytes, it is a portal vein, hepatic artery and bile duct. There is no nerve. It is bile duct, portal vein, hepatic artery and bile duct. In this order, these three constitute triad of portal triad, and you can see along with these hexagonal points, there is radiation sinusoids are present, right? these are all radii what we see from each of this point, which are pointing at the central part of this hepatocyte, is called as central vein is present, which is a part of portal vein. And this central vein is having all along its radiations, and they are lined, these sinusoids are lined with hepatocytes. These are the hepatocytes where they are going to secrete or synthesize bile inside this, and the sinusoids is the place wherein there is admixture of both portal vein blood as well as hepatic artery blood. You should remember that there is a mixture of both venous and arterial blood in the hepatic sinusoids, and this is very important for hepatocytes. As we know, liver is the most important metabolic organ. It has, when we see the list of functions of liver, we'll come to know why it's important for this admixturing of both venous blood as well as arterial blood. Okay. Then this is one more picture in detail showing that these are the hepatic sinusoids, and these sinusoids are lined with macrophageal cells called as Kupffer cells, and these are the hepatic cells. And you will see that hepatic cells are lined in a cord, CHORD, cord-like radiations. In between these hepatic sites, hepatocytes, there is a space called as sinusoids, and these sinusoids are lined with the Kupffer cells, which are very important for the killing of the macrophages and bacteria, virus that enters into the liver. And you can see the network of this bile duct, hepatic artery and hepatic vein. So vein, artery and duct in this order. Why VAN I am telling is vein, artery and nerve or duct. In this order only, when you do the dissection of this, you will come to know microscopic structure also. You will see in detail. In this order it will be arranged. So all these sinusoids and hepatocytes, what they secrete the bile and released into the intracellular canaliculi, and intracellular means in between the cells, and these intracellular canaliculi join together to form intercellular canaliculi, and they empty into the main hepatic duct here. Okay, so then arterial and venous blood also will enter like this, and again it will be mixed, and whatever function will be done, again that will be going into the portal vein to the inferior vena cava. So coming to the, I will be initially telling the important features of the liver. When we study liver, all of you must be knowing this is the largest organ in the body with 1.5 kg weight, right? This is one of the unique feature of liver. It is the largest organ in the body with almost 1 to 1.5 kg weight in an adult, and receiving highest, means third highest maybe blood supply. Again it is 1500 ml per minute. So it's 1500 ml, not hour, it is per minute. Okay, so this is the extent of, because it has to detoxify, its main function is to detoxify, do conjugation of the bilirubin and synthesize this clotting factors, synthesize plasma protein, and synthesize urea from ammonia. So multiple important functions are there for the liver. That's why the blood supply is highest. And if you remember, heart, kidney and brain, liver, these are the important organs which receive highest amount of blood supply per minute. So it's very important for you to remember what is the blood supply of liver and its weight and its unique features, right? So out of this 1500 ml, portal vein will supply 80% of blood. So you see here, portal vein is the main part which supplies blood supplied to the liver, because it drains the blood from stomach, intestine, spleen, pancreas and all these organs blood is collected and that is entering into the portal vein, and portal vein will supply each of this 80% of blood to the liver, because after getting digested from all these organs and even the spleen, reticuloendothelial system, what it's having, their products are digestive products, and including GI hormones will enter into this liver. Okay, then that will cause the digestion. Then hepatic artery will have its contribution only 20%, and this 20% of hepatic artery blood is very much rich in oxygen. Just excuse me for 1 second. Hello. Na class ಹೇಳಿ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಸ್ ಬರ್ತೀವಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡ್ರಿ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಹೇಳಿ ಹೌದು. So hepatic artery is 20% supply, whereas vein is supplying 80%. But there will be admixture of both these into the sinusoids. And then once the admixture of the blood takes place in the sinusoid, then waste products from that blood like oxygen, ammonia, then any drugs are present, toxic agents, they are all will be inactivated into by the hepatic cells, and then they will be sent again to the circulation. So from here the blood will enter into central veins to blood will go to the hepatic vein. Ultimately all hepatic veins will join together to empty into the inferior vena cava. Okay, so that is the importance and significance of liver, this blood supply. Then now we'll see the functions of liver. Now this is an overview, means liver has got, see, production and secretion of bile, first important function. Then it's a site for biosynthesis of many products. It is having its major role in metabolism, storage, filtration and detoxification or inactivation. So these are main 6 important functions. Production and secretion of bile we'll study later. That is, bile is essential for digestion of lipids and elimination of even waste products also. Then another important function is it is going to synthesize proteins like plasma proteins, heme containing CYP450 enzymes, many gluconeogenesis and glycogenolysis. Right, these are the main important functions of the liver. Then lipids and cholesterol. So liver synthesizes cholesterol, which is very important product for synthesis of many other enzymes, as well as even bile. Bile is also synthesized from cholesterol only, and lipids. Then in metabolism, liver plays again a very important role in metabolism of all the carbohydrates and proteins, fats. You know the Krebs cycle and the protein synthesis, how it is the proteins are getting converted in gluconeogenesis and they are stored, and whenever the severe starvation occurs to the body, then that time the stored proteins, fats and carbohydrates are released. So heme degradation products are also enterohepatic circulation, it will go. Then after metabolism it will have a storage. So storage of glycogen is stored, not glucose is stored. Then many vitamins like vitamin B12 and K. Vitamin K is another important vitamin which is responsible for anticoagulation. So they are synthesized and stored in the hepatocytes, including iron and copper, wherein this iron is from the breakdown of heme in the reticuloendothelial system of the liver, and that is also stored and recirculated again for synthesis of the hemoglobin. Then it has got a very important function of filtration, like bacterial Kupffer cells are going to digest all the bacteria that enters into the liver. Many endotoxins, parasites and aged RBCs. Once 120 days are crossed, all these aged RBCs all are getting filtrated and they will be reused the breakdown product of these will be reused again, especially the aged RBCs. Breakdown will be heme and globin. Globin will go to this amino acid pool, whereas heme is again broken down into further products and reused. Okay. Then last important function is detoxification or inactivation. So what happens here, any toxic products that are present in the food or in the body will be entering through the portal circulation into the liver, where in detoxification occurs, and inactivation of many of the steroids and other hormones will be occurring. So this list seems to be very easy, but the function, if the liver stops inactivation of few of the hormones, what will happen? So if you remember the functions properly, you will be able to know the applied aspect or clinical aspect very easily. If the defect is there in storage, what clinical symptoms will occur? If there is liver derangement is there in filtration, what will happen? If the liver cells are incapable of doing proper detoxification or inactivation of the drugs or hormones, what will happen? Same thing applies when metabolism is affected like that. Okay. So applied aspect is directly related to the functions. So that was the in depth, just to list out main important functions once again. First is bile production and secretion. Second is detoxification and storage of glycogen. These are very important functions. Then like in that order only I have listed. Then protein synthesis. Then is production of heparin and bile pigments. Again very important for bile secretion and digestion of lipids. Then in fetal life, liver is the site of erythropoiesis, right? So once the baby starts developing, the site of erythropoiesis goes on changing. You all know this already. So these again are 6 very, very important functions apart from what we have studied in the last slide. Now here coming to the secretion of bile by the liver. So as I told you, liver is going to synthesize and secrete, and then this bile will be transferred to the gallbladder through cystic duct. So what is the composition of bile in the liver or hepatocyte? We will see now. So hepatocytes are the site where the synthesis of bile acids takes place. Here precursor is cholesterol ester, then it will enter into the smaller canaliculi, intracellular canaliculi. From there it enters into the main hepatic ducts. After the hepatic duct, right, because there are 2 hepatic ducts. Hepatic duct will divide into right and left hepatic duct, from where the bile will be going to get conjugated. This this bile will enter into the cystic duct, and both cystic duct and hepatic duct together will form a common bile duct, and that will enter into the this ampulla of Vater into second part of the duodenum once the food enters into the first part of duodenum. Okay, so this is the sequence where the bile from liver is getting synthesized and how it enters into the gallbladder and the main common bile duct. Second important thing of this liver is it's a site for conjugation of free bilirubin that is entering as a byproduct of heme degradation, right? Once hemoglobin is broken down into heme and globin, this heme will be further divided into bilirubin and biliverdin. This bilirubin will get conjugated with glucuronil in the presence of glucuronil transferase enzyme, and then it becomes a water soluble bilirubin glucuronides are formed, right? So these are the 2 important functions of the liver. Okay, this portal triad I have already told you. These triads are present at the angles of the liver lobule, that is hexagonal liver lobule, and arrangement is portal vein, hepatic artery and bile duct. Then surrounding the portal vein will be the portal canal, and portal veins will drain into portal sinusoids, and these sinusoids are in very close connection with the bile canaliculi, and ultimately they drain into the interlobular bile duct, right? Interlobular bile duct. Then we have seen the functions of liver already. Now I am going to correlate these functions along with the insufficiency of livers. And this table is given very nicely in AKGN textbook. They have listed all the functions on one side and insufficiency or disorders of the same function in the other side. So you please, if you read that, it is very easy to remember the function in correlation with its applied aspect. So here I have put forth a few important functions and their insufficiency. First and foremost, we know that liver is the site of production of many clotting factors, as well as like factor 5, 7, 9th and 10th clotting factors are synthesized in the liver. So if liver is inflamed or hepatitis, or in case of jaundice, that's prehepatic or hepatic or obstructive jaundice occurs, or liver cirrhosis or fibrosis of the liver occurs, that time there will be lack of synthesis of these clotting factors as well as the heme synthesis. That will result into anemia, right? So anemia may be one of the clinical symptom or sign of the person suffering from liver disease. So you have to remember, anemia, one of the cause may be liver disorder, right? Then proteins, liver will also synthesize proteins that mediate inflammation. Okay, so what happens, any inflammation in the body, these proteins are responsible for mediating that. So suppose if liver is affected here again in hepatitis, then these protein synthesis will be decreased and inflammation will be more severe. Immune system is also affected because the antigen presentation by this protein mediating inflammation is very important. So if liver functions are deranged, that is going to affect our immunity also, wherein the regulation of inflammation or this fighting against the inflammation becomes very weak if the liver is affected. So third important point is hormone inactivation. I told, so like hormones like cortisol, thyroxine, insulin and testosterone, they are getting inactivated at their end stage in the liver. So if liver is again fibrosed or cirrhosis of liver, fatty liver has occurred, that means liver cannot carry out the inactivation of these hormones. So the presenting symptom may be like excess of these, because these hormones will keep on circulating in the blood and there won't be any inactivation. So the blood level goes on increasing of cortisol. So hyper secretion symptoms will appear in these persons, right? Like if a person is having cirrhosis of liver or fatty liver, they will suffer from diabetes because actually excess of insulin is there in the blood, or they may suffer from hypoglycemia also. So like this, every hormone excess level will be there in the blood and their actions will be exaggerated. So hyperthyroidism, like increased testosterone level, will cause what is the effect on the body, you can imagine. So signs of these excess hormones will also be present whenever the disease of the liver occurs. Okay, then next is binding proteins and lipids and carbohydrates. Like binding proteins means, you know, liver is the main site for conjugation of many of the products. So like bile and other detoxification and inactivation. So sulfate, glycine, glucuronic acid, these are the conjugating proteins or binding proteins. If the synthesis of these conjugated proteins is reduced, then these excess will be increased, excretion in the urine is found, right? Again, they will have many effects on the body of excess of ammonia in the blood, excess of this bile in the blood, or it may cause jaundice. So these you have to correlate the functions of liver with the clinical insufficiency. Then liver is the site for vitamins and the synthesis of bile salts. So if again the hepatic cells fails to synthesize bile salts or vitamins, then deficiency symptoms of that vitamin and bile salt will be seen. Then degradation of drugs and chemicals is the function. So if in insufficiency of liver, like severe viral hepatitis or cirrhosis, fatty liver has occurred, then again these drugs like nicotine and barbiturates especially, they are degraded in the liver only. These mainly barbiturates are used in anesthetic agents. So if the liver of that person is not working properly, then there will be overdose. Overdosing symptoms will appear in these people. So whenever anesthesia is given, that time also should be careful to know whether the liver function tests are normal or not before doing operation. Then even enzymes, hormones and cytokines are getting degraded in the liver, and liver insufficiency will lead to accumulation of this enzymes and cytokines. So this, like this, you have to correlate the functions of liver with the insufficiency. Then in its liver's role in immunities, we have seen that sinusoids are lined with the Kupffer cells, and these are the part of mononuclear phagocytic system, nothing but reticuloendothelial system, which was called as previously, and this is the site of for main RBC destruction and broken down products into globin and heme, and globin will enter into recirculation like that. And these Kupffer cells also play an important role, I told you, as a non-specific defense of the body, because liver is exposed to so much of high blood circulation. So many of the virus and bacteria are supposed to enter into the liver, and that has to be dealt by these Kupffer cells. Then the endocrine function of liver basically is synthesis of vitamin D3 to vitamin D3. Vitamin D will be absorbed, sun rays when they are absorbed through the skin, that will be going into the liver, and there 25 hydroxy vitamin D3 is formed. This will go to the kidney, and 125 dihydroxy cholecalciferol is formed through the kidney and then lungs. So like that, this step of vitamin D3 to 25 hydroxy vitamin D3 occurs in the liver. So if liver is again fatty liver, cirrhosis of liver occurs, this step will not occur. So person will ultimately suffer from in few longer duration lack of vitamin D. And it is the site for conversion of T4 into active T3 form. So if thyroid function tests may become abnormal in fatty liver or cirrhosis of liver, because this converting step is again not taking place if liver functions are affected. Okay. Then somatomedins like insulin like growth factors are secreted by the liver. Now you know what is the role of somatomedin in the function of normal function of growth hormone and insulin and other tissues. So if somatomedin are not secreted, again it will show all the deficiency of this lack of somatomedin. So these I am telling, please remember I am telling the function along with its insufficiency. Okay. Now we will quickly see about the pathophysiology of jaundice. Now jaundice, you know, it is defined as yellowish discoloration of sclera and mucous membrane and skin. So can anyone tell me, I think all of you are now awakened. So why yellowish discoloration occurs? What is the cause for yellowish discoloration? And it is seen in sclera first. first it appears in the whole body is in sclera. Can anyone tell me the reason? Be active. Class, theory class should not be one-sided, right? So yellowish discoloration, everyone knows since long time we will be studying jaundice. So can anyone tell me what is the cause for yellow discoloration at least? I have written answer below only. Nobody wants to talk.
Deposition of bile salts.
Yeah, can you little be more specific? What should be the level of this bilirubin to make the color, change the color of the skin or mucous membrane to yellow? What should be the level? If you know the normal level of serum bilirubin, then above which level the skin coloration will change? That is my question.
More than 2 milligram.
Okay, more than 2 milligram per deciliter, right? Normal level is?
1.2 to 2.
No, it is 0.2. 0.2 to 0.8, less than 1 is the normal level. Okay, means when all the values whatever we study, they are in normal level present in the body. If they exceed the normal level, so 0.2 to 0.8 is the normal level of serum bilirubin. 0.8 to 2 milligram is called as pre-hepatic, pre-jaundice, right? Means the person is prone for developing preclinical jaundice, it is called. So if the bilirubin level exceeds to more than 2 milligram per deciliter, then the person's yellowish discoloration starts. So this is the scale you should remember. You need not go for investigation. If yellowish discoloration is there, that means a person's serum bilirubin is more than 2 milligram per deciliter. Okay. So, you know, bilirubin is the degradation product of hemoglobin, and causes, then we have to classify what is the cause for this jaundice, right? If it is pre-hepatic, it will be most of the time because of increased hemolysis, that is breakdown of the hemoglobin. Then to understand jaundice, we should know little bit about the metabolism of or catabolism of hemoglobin. I know this part will be dealt in detail in biochemistry, or if it is already over, you will be knowing. So actually this is a horizontal integrated class according to CBMB. So physiologically we don't go in depth about the heme metabolism, that will be dealt in, and liver function test. Both will be extensively dealt in biochemistry. We will deal only with physiology part. So catabolism occurs hemoglobin, you know, after 120 days of RBCs, you will be subjected to mononuclear phagocytic system, where spleen, lymph nodes and bone marrow act as MPS system. They break down RBC to HB. HB will be further divided into heme and globin. Globin will be recirculated back to amino acid pool, and it is reused for synthesis of again globin chain or many other proteins. So it is reutilized, whereas heme is getting further with the help of microsomal oxygenase system. The iron, it will be separated into iron part, and iron will join the iron pool again, wherein it is reused by the synthesis of heme again, right? Few heme molecules being, they will undergo oxidation process, where the biliverdin is converted into bilirubin by the presence of biliverdin reductase enzyme, right? So this is a reduction process from heme to biliverdin, biliverdin to bilirubin. Now this bilirubin is a lipophilic nature, right? Means it is not getting dissolved, it's not water soluble, it is lipophilic. Therefore, it crosses the cell membrane easily, because if you remember the structure of cell membrane, it is lipids, lipid bilayer, right? So bilirubin easily passes the cell membrane because of this property. Then it is getting transported into the body fluids only because it is water insoluble, right? So it's not hydrophilic, it's only lipophilic. So in the body fluids easily as a lipid molecule it will be transported, and in the liver conjugation will occur, and along with the albumin it will get conjugated, and then it will be converting bilirubin albumin complex will be formed in the blood. Then again I will ask one more question. This bilirubin albumin complex, it goes to nephrons also, but we don't find this in the urine, right? Urine bilirubin level is 0.2 only, okay, 0.2 to 0.8, what that is blood actually, serum bilirubin. Urine bilirubin is almost nil. Can you tell me why this complex is not excreted in the urine? Again apply your logic. Why bilirubin is not excreted normally in the urine? Nobody knows?
Lipophilic nature.
Yes, little louder. This complex means binding with albumin only, it will be circulated in the blood, right? Now, when this complex is subjected to renal system, it is not found in the urine, right? That means it is not filtrated into the glomerular filtration, GFR, right? What is the cause? Why it is not getting filtrated is my question. Anyone?
Insoluble in water, ma'am.
No, insoluble in water, but in GFR there is no question of lipophilic or hydrophilic, right? Now if you remember, it is the size, right? See, GFR depends on the size of the molecules also. Here albumin is the bigger size, and when it is binds and forms a complex, right? And this bigger size complex cannot be filtrated into the nephron. That's why the bilirubin is never found in normal person in the urine. It is appearing as urobilinogen only in excess of whenever there is excess production of bilirubin by hepatitis, jaundice. Okay, so that's the reason. The size, if you remember factors affecting filtration in the renal system, the size and charge of the molecule counts. Okay, okay. Then this complex further gets splits into the liver, and here again albumin stays back or goes into the blood circulation, re-enters, whereas bilirubin also re-enters back into the hepatocytes, which will help in again synthesis of bile, right? So this is the metabolism in brief about the hemoglobin. So ultimately the metabolic steps are divided into three, that is uptake, conjugation and excretion of the heme, right? One is uptake, second there will be conjugation of this heme, and third it is excreted. So uptake is in hepatocyte, it gets binding with ligandin, right? Then bilirubin ligandin complex is formed, which prevents the re-entry of bilirubin into the blood because of its size here also. Because whatever bilirubin enters into the hepatocyte should not again re-enter into the portal circulation, goes back to bilirubin, right? It is required for bile synthesis in the hepatocyte, but few of the bilirubin will enter into the blood, that is used for hemoglobin synthesis again. So, but here in the liver it is required for bile synthesis, so it binds with ligandin and stays in the hepatocyte so that bile is formed. Then second is conjugation. Here the endoplasmic reticulum, inside the endoplasmic reticulum, this bilirubin conjugates with glucuronic acid to form bilirubin glucuronide, right? This is stored as bilirubin glucuronide by glucuronil transferase enzyme. You should always quote an enzyme name also. Then the last step is excretion, where bilirubin glucuronide gets excreted in the canaliculi of the bile, this hepatic ducts, and this is actually, see, these uptake, conjugation, excretion are all in the hepatocytes. Don't get confused. This with excretion means into the kidney. Okay. This excretion means canaliculi from hepatocytic intercellular canaliculi to intracellular canaliculi, from their hepatic duct to the gallbladder, like that. Okay. So this is a rate limiting step. Whenever any chemical reactions you remember, you have to remember the rate limiting step. So this step is affected means whole process of synthesis will be affected. So this is again in brief. Heme, in the presence of heme oxygenation, is converted into biliverdin, and this globin will be released and entering into the pool. Then biliverdin reductase in the presence will get unconjugated bilirubin. This happens in the liver. Okay. From in the liver, unconjugated bilirubin in the presence of this UGT, that is urinodyl glucone transferase, will get into uridyl, I think gluconeryl transferase, will get converted into conjugated bilirubin. Then this enters, forms a bile, utilized in the bile formation, and this much 3 steps occur in the liver hepatocyte till this also. Then bile, when it enters into the small intestine and the colon, the bacteria present in the intestinal colon will convert this bile into urobilinogen and stercobilinogen. Now urobilinogen will enter into the kidney, and there it is excreted as urinary urobilinogen, whereas stercobilinogen enters into the fecal matter, and this is responsible for color of the fecal matter. So this urobilinogen, stercobilinogen, and these steps occur in the intestine. Only conjugation, then synthesis of bile, these 3 steps occur in the liver. Okay. Then what happens in fate of conjugated bilirubin? It enters the small intestine, same thing. Once after conjugation, it enters into intestine, then large intestine by the bacterial flora, it gets converted into reduction reactions to form stercobilinogen. 80% of stercobilinogen again converts into stercobilin, whereas 20% will re-enter into portal circulation and the kidney. Then in the kidney, urobilinogen is formed, and that is again reabsorbed. Most of 80% will be reabsorbed into the enterohepatic circulation. Normally, the urine color is colorless, right? If this urobilinogen appears in the urine, then the color will change, right? Become darker. That is the thing. So this diagram shows again the same thing. Then here again to just to tell you the applied aspect, I have if we list it properly, there are 10 functions of the liver: metabolic function, storage function, synthetic function, excretory function, heat production, that is thermoregulation also, then hemopoietic function, hemolytic function, inactivation of hormones, drugs, chemicals, and defensive function, and detoxification function. So you can imagine how much important is the liver. Now just coming to the few of liver insufficiency, and I will finish today's class. Liver insufficiency, what we studied, anemia and this other clotting factors synthesis deficiency. Along with that, if liver fails to synthesize plasma proteins, especially albumin is synthesized in the liver, then there will be severe hypoproteinemia. Then albumin globulin ratio gets reversed. So in liver disorders, AG ratio, albumin globulin ratio gets reversed because albumin synthesis is severely affected. Then there will be many hemorrhagic disorders. If a person is having cirrhosis or fatty liver for longer time, you will see the petechial hemorrhages below the skin, That is because of lack of fibrinogen and prothrombin synthesis. Okay. Then in hepatitis, we will find severe increase in SGOT and SGPT and SICD enzymes. The long forms you will find in the book, you will please go through. So blood urine and ammonia increases. As I told you, ammonia is getting converted into urea in the hepatocyte. So if this conversion does not occur because of liver disease, then urea and ammonia level will increase, whereas blood and urine ammonia means blood ammonia level, urine ammonia level will increase, whereas blood urea level decreases because there is no synthesis of urea from ammonia. That's why urea level decreases. Then in obstructive jaundice, because cholesterol is synthesized in the liver, here there will be lack of this cholesterol in the blood. Okay, so there will be prehepatic coma if glycogenesis and gluconeogenesis is affected, because if there is severe lack of blood glucose level in the hepatic tissue, the person will have hypoglycemia and there will be decreased blood glucose level, and this will cause tremors, slurred speech, convulsions, coma and death in the person if not treated with glucose solution. So you will find if excess of amino acids are there, then there will be amino aciduria. So the normal level of amino acids in the blood is 30 to 65 milligram per deciliter, and it will increase. Then fatty liver, triglycerides are increased here in the fatty liver. So this leads chronic fatty liver, all hepatocytes are replaced by fat tissue, and that leads to fibrosis, cirrhosis of the liver, long standing. Then the person will develop portal hypertension in long standing diseases, and if not treated at this stage, they will go for accumulation of fluid in the body called as ascites, and this ascites will lead to esophageal varices and hemorrhoids. So these are all like sequences of events in fibrosis or fatty liver if not treated at proper stage. Okay, so these are the consequences. Now this I told you that jaundice is not a disease, but rather than it is a sign, right? We tell jaundice is underlying cause, we have to find out. The symptoms will be yellow coloration of skin, eye, tongue, then urine will also be yellow colored, loss of appetite, pain in the liver region, nausea, constipation, extreme weakness, fever, headache and fatigue will be there. Now this is all the sequence of pathophysiology of jaundice, wherein how they are divided and what happens here. I will end with this slide because time is short. So jaundice, basically it may be because of sickle cell or hemolytic jaundice, right? Or excess hemolysis of RBC will cause the hemolytic jaundice, is called as prehepatic, because prehepatic means the cause is not in the liver, it is before liver, prehepatic. So unconjugated hyperbilirubinemia occurs here. Here the jaundice will one second. Hello. हाँ सर, you must have class थोड़ा yes. So this unconjugated hyperbilirubinemia will cause into many hepatocellular or hepatic causes and damaged. Ultimately, there will be damage of the hepatocytes, and this causes hepatitis, hepatic carcinoma, and this will lead to the causes like cirrhosis, hepatitis, cholangitis, pancreatitis, and carcinoma of means gallbladder CA will also occur. Okay, so we'll end here. Next class I will continue with the jaundice only in detail and gallbladder also. Okay, that will be offline. Okay, so we'll end here, and thank you for listening.